You ever watch a whole room freeze in place because of one sentence from a 9-year-old kid? I mean, the kind of moment where time slows down, people forget to breathe, and you realize maybe for the first time that you're about to see something you'll never forget. That's exactly what happened the day Daniel stepped into first class, clutching his boarding pass like it was armor, facing down Patricia and her icy, perfect smile. Now, Patricia's the type you spot right away: designer bag, heels, perfume that could kill a cactus, and this look on her face that said she owned the entire cabin, if not the whole damn sky. "Sweetheart, this is first class. You must be confused." Her voice sliced through the quiet like it was her job to keep order among the rabble. But Daniel didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Just this quiet, steady stare, not angry, not afraid, like he'd heard all before and honestly couldn't be bothered. He said, as calm as a Sunday morning, "Ma'am, this is my seat, and my father will want to know how I was treated on his airline." Right there, you felt the temperature shift. Phones got checked, heads swiveled, that weird energy when people want to help but don't want to be the first to stand up. Patricia just laughed, cold and sharp, certain the world would bend to her rules like it always did. But you could see it just for a second she wasn't quite sure what game she'd wandered into. The flight attendant came hustling back, eyes darting like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Ma'am," she said, barely above a whisper, "the seat belongs to him." Patricia rolled her eyes. "First class isn't for children like him," she spat, louder now, just begging for someone to back her up. She was waiting for the crowd to agree, for somebody to say, "Yeah, that's right." But the silence that followed was deafening. An older couple in one, they looked at each other, disgust written all over their faces. A businessman shook his head, but you know how it is, no one wants to get involved. And then Daniel, with this unshakable poise, quoted his mother, "Respect matters more than money. People show who they really are when they think no one important is watching." That line hung in the air like a church bell, everyone suddenly uncomfortable with how true it was. Patricia just scoffed, but you could see she was getting rattled, like maybe the world didn't work quite the way she'd always assumed. That's when the captain showed up, Captain Rodriguez, all sharp lines and authority, the kind of presence that makes people sit up straight. "Ma'am," he said, voice even but iron hard, "this child has a confirmed reservation for this seat. Furthermore, his file has a VIP designation." Patricia wasn't having it. VIP for child? Absurd. She tried to wave him off, but Daniel just turned to the captain, quietly asking, "Sir, may I sit down now? I have a book I'd like to finish before we land." That's when Patricia exploded, slamming her hand on the armrest. "Do you even know who I am? I'm a senior consultant for Coleman and Associates. I deal with CEOs every week." Daniel's lips twitched almost a smile. "Do you, ma'am?" His voice wasn't mocking, just knowing, like he'd read the ending of the story before the first page. She started to say something else, but the flight supervisor, Morrison, appeared, then big guy, calm voice, recognized Daniel on sight. "Ma'am, you need to calm yourself. This young passenger is traveling under the direct authorization of our company's majority owner. That's why his file carries special instructions." "Majority owner?" she repeated, her voice suddenly tiny. Daniel adjusted his backpack, then dropped the bombshell. "Ma'am, my father is Michael Thompson. He owns this airline. When he hears how his son was treated today, I think he'll be very disappointed." You could hear the ripple run through the cabin murmurs, the unmistakable click of phones recording. Patricia's mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. "You're lying," she managed. Morrison just shook his head and dialed a number. "Mr. Thompson, Daniel is on the flight and wishes to speak with you." Even through the phone, you could hear Michael Thompson's voice sharp, commanding, "Did someone mistreat you, son?" Daniel, hand steady as stone, said, "Yes, Dad. A woman said I don't belong here. She told me people like me are born to serve, while others are born to lead." That did it. The whole cabin was dead silent. Patricia shrinking into her seat, looking everywhere but at the boy she'd tried to dismiss. "Put her on," Michael's voice demanded. Patricia shook her head, but Morrison handed her the phone anyway. Her hand trembled so hard you could hear the plastic rattle. "Mr. Thompson, Didn't know if I had known who he was. Michael cut her off cold. So, you only treat children with dignity when you know their parents are powerful? That's your standard? Patricia tried to stammer out a defense, but Michael shut her down. My son recorded every word. You told a 9-year-old black boy he should know his place. You humiliated him in front of an entire cabin. And now the entire world will see who you really are. The call ended with a finality you could almost taste. After that, it was over for Patricia. The supervisor told her, voice like a closing door, the airline has zero tolerance for discrimination. Security will meet you when we land. Passengers started clapping, some just quietly, others full on, like it was the end of a long, bad show. Daniel finally sat down in 9A, cracked open his book, and read like nothing had happened, but you could feel the ripple of what just went down. My mother taught me my place is wherever I have a right to be. No one could take that away. That's what he said, just before Patricia tried to protest, her voice drowned out by 100 cameras and 1,000 silent judgments. Her downfall was documented from every angle, of tears, the pleading, the makeup streaking down her face. Security met the plane in Miami, took her off in front of everyone. Once, her voice could command a boardroom. Now, not so much. By the next week, Patricia's meltdown was everywhere. Viral. Headlines. Coleman and Associates dumped her without a second thought. No corporation wanted her name within a mile of theirs. She went from running meetings to begging for a second chance, but nobody cared. Meanwhile, Daniel's story spread further than First Class ever could. Schools started using it to teach about dignity. Companies put in training for unconscious bias. His quiet defiance became a sort of legend, proof that real strength isn't about power or age, but about never letting someone else decide your worth. Even Michael Thompson, who'd been furious at first, told his son, "You showed the world something I couldn't, that dignity can silence even the loudest cruelty." A bunch of those passengers, people who'd just sat there, watching, admitted later they wished they'd spoken up. But even their silence got turned into a lesson. Sometimes courage looks like a 9-year-old kid standing tall when nobody else will. And Patricia? The court made her do volunteer work with anti-racism organizations. Her face, once the picture of arrogance, now appeared in training videos as a warning of how fast prejudice can burn your life to the ground. But none of it erased the moment in First Class when a little boy changed the temperature of an entire cabin, reminded a plane full of strangers that respect isn't a luxury, for the few it's a right. That flight became a turning point for Daniel. He stopped being the kid who slipped quietly through airports, started walking with his head a little higher, his eyes meeting everyone's gaze. The lesson was simple but permanent. Respect isn't about titles or money, it's about seeing each other's humanity, every single time. And on his next trip, Daniel sat by the window, sunlight pouring across his book, engines rumbling outside, knowing deep down that dignity could take him farther than any jet ever would. So, let me ask, if you were in that cabin, would you have spoken up? What would you have done? Drop your thoughts below, argue, debate, share your own stories about justice, dignity, or just that one moment when you saw someone stand up for what was right. Sometimes, it only takes a kid in seat 9A to remind us what courage really looks like.